exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah.
Remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media.
I was wondering who did that. Thanks.
Ain't nothing to it. A baby could do it.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
We make this judgment affirmatively. It will be an entire nation.
Let's try this one. Alrighty. Hey guys, what's going on? I have Political Avenger from the Political Avenger YouTube channel and Twitter. And I've been wanting to meet up with her for a long time. I saw her videos, like, I don't know, how long have you been doing this? For a couple of years? 3 years, 4 years? Longer?
It's gonna be, yeah, it's 2016.
Okay, so what, like 4 years?
Yeah, it's over 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, 4 years. So I probably started watching you a couple of years ago. And I really like her because not only is she like a patriot, but she also talks about like I saw a video and you were talking about DARPA. I was like, yeah, you know, you go beyond politics too. You talk about a lot of, you know, kind of conspiratorial stuff, but I wish there was another word for it because people use the word conspiracy theorist as like this pejorative and, or as if people are making up lies, but there's truth to this stuff, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, it's a conspiracy theory until it's not.
Yeah, but it's not even a theory.
Exactly, but if you want to, you know, if you want to go based on what the mainstream media says all the time, it's a conspiracy theory until it's not. Until you actually show, you know, the declassified information or, you know, documentation that goes with that supposed conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And then even then there are people that are just, you know, they're like, oh, I don't want to see, I don't want to hear, you know.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly or?
Yeah, I can. No, I'm saying, but then even after you present the information, there are people that are, you know, cover their eyes and ears. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it, you know.
Of course, because then that means that what we've been experiencing and living is not the real truth. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't like to think that they've been fooled.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't like to, first of all, we don't like to think that we're so naive that we can be so easily fooled.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard.
Yeah. Especially if you're an educated person, right? You've gone to school all this money.
And you've gone into the whole,
right? I mean, yeah, I feel like those are the worst people as far as, not worse, but as far as like, they're to me, in my experience, have been the most asleep people, are the people that have been indoctrinated in college. And I went to college and I have lots of family members that went to college, and it depends, but I feel like there's so much meaning giving to getting a degree. Not only like, not just the meaning that, okay, I went to school for this certain amount of time and I know a lot about the subject because I spend a lot of concentrated energy on the subject, but I'm just a better human being than you. because I have a degree, you know, like that's that kind of unspoken law.
Right. Well, that's because that's the way the system is set up.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's set up that way for a reason. I mean, you have to make people believe that they're on a different status than everyone else based on what they've been taught.
Yeah. And then there are people that don't have that and they buy into that too. And that's why they get the big head, because of people that worship people. Whether they're celebrity or whether they, you know, they have a degree or they went to school for a long time, you know, they automatically, there are people that put those people ahead of them. Mm-hmm. And they believe that they're better people, you know, because of that. But, you know.
Yeah, because the system is set up that way to make you think that because you have a title, because you have education, or because you went through, you know, you paid your dues going through school, that you're in a better position, which you are in a better position if you go outside of the learning of the actual school system. You are in a better position if you read books on your own and you research on your own. But if you've never been taught to do that, you're going to look up to these people that they tell you are the ones that are the experts and are, you know, the educated ones.
Yeah, it's insane that the system is set up that way. And that, you know, I was a teacher, and that's why I wanted to stop teaching, because I felt like I was part of the brainwashing. I love teaching. I love kids. I taught adults too. I like teaching, but I just realized that I was being programmed as a teacher to be part of that system, you know, unwittingly. And it started to get to me too. I was like, I don't want to be part of this. So that's why I'm not in the classroom teaching anymore, you know?
Right.
So I'm just curious though, are you one of these people that was born woke? Or did you have an awakening? I always ask this a lot of times with my guests, like, what was the thing that made you wake up or realize, or there's some people that, very few people, that's really rare, that you're born and you know something is wrong.
Right. Well, I've always known something is wrong with the world because I didn't understand it's just simple stuff. Like on a spiritual level, why do people hurt each other? Why does anyone hurt somebody else? I didn't comprehend why someone has to kill someone else for materialistic stuff. That simple view of the world was like very impactful. Like I didn't understand why people had to hurt each other for material things. You can call that my first waking up.
Yeah.
My real like traumatic wake up call was when the Rodney King riots, when I was a kid. That was my real wake up call. I don't know, as a kid, I used to watch the news. I had a thing about watching news, watching documentaries, watching, you know, television, you can say, but for like interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that happen live on TV, where people were just breaking people's cars in the middle of the day, beating up people, smashing people's heads in, and then you see the footage of what happened that night, or that specific night where Rodney King was beat up. I didn't understand as a kid why all that was happening. You know, I didn't get that the world could be. I got that the world could be cruel because I was treated cruel as a kid, but I didn't know it could be on that massive scale. And that was like the real wake-up call when it was televised, and I realized that the world is really fucked up. Like that's when I really realized that the world is not this place that I thought it was.
The beating itself or the riots?
The beating and then the riots, the way everything played out, because they went on for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Where were you?
And I was in Florida, in Miami.
Okay.
And it was on the news from, you know, early to night. Every night you see the buildings go on fire, parts of California on fire, and then people out in the streets. You would hear the gunshots in the video, in the news reports, and you saw how people were treating each other and the police and the whole nine. It was just crazy.
I know I'm totally going to give away my age when I talk about it, but I was actually living in South Central when all that happened. So I was in under martial law. I remember when it came and when it happened, a lot of people were actually kind of excited when the video came out. It was a lot of emotion and stuff, but I know like just being around other Black people and like especially other Black men, a lot of them were just like, finally, we're going to like, you know, get some justice. We finally got it on tape. We've been saying that there's been police brutality for years, but nobody has gotten it on video to this extent. Finally, we're going to get some justice. And I remember around the same time, there were also two other news things that were local that people didn't talk about. Or there was a girl named Latasha Harlins that was like, that was caught on tape. She like not strangled, or she like, you know, kind of shook this grocer, and she was arguing with her. It was a Korean grocer, and she like shook her, and she's turning away and she's walking away. And as she's walking away, the Korean grocer like turns around and shoots her in the back of the head and kills her. She was like 15. And then there were two other guys, I forgot their name, but they were like, they were in jail for 17 years for a crime that they didn't commit, and they were just getting out around that time. So by now the tension is building, right? And then When those police officers got off, it was like a bomb. It was just like, I remember getting off the school bus and I go home right away. And then I saw the Reginald Denny incident, the truck driver, you know, and he's like, I saw, that was one of the first like memories that I had when I saw it starting. And it wasn't too far from where I lived. It was like on Florence and Normandy. And the guy's like, he probably called them all kinds of niggers and stuff. It doesn't mean that they had to pull him out and beat the crap out of him. But it was crazy because
they killed him though.
Huh? Did they kill him?
Yeah, they killed him when they smashed his head in. They killed him.
Oh crap! I don't even.
That's
remember
why.
He died.
Yeah, they killed him.
Okay.
Right, he died from the bottles hitting him over the head. They broke his head open.
Dang, I didn't even. Okay, so I remember watching that, but I was just like, well, he's in a truck. There's no way they're gonna get to him, and they pulled him out of the truck. I was like, oh my god, that is crazy. And there were so many fires. Like I was having asthma attacks. The ash was just falling from the sky. It looked like the sun was red. And you know, I think there's like in the Bible where they're like the end of the world,
right?
The blood or the moon turns of. I was like, oh my god, this is. As a kid, you're a kid, and you're living in it, and you think it's the end of the world. And we had curfew, we had martial law. There were people walking around because I live by USC. So especially because there were like richer people around, of course, they're going to call a lot of the rich kids are going to USC, they're going to call the National Guard in that area specifically to protect them. And there was people walking around our neighborhood with rifles. And yeah, it was the craziest thing. But to hear you say that, it's just interesting because I was literally in the middle of it, but to hear other people, not just you, but other people that weren't even in it be traumatized by that. I never really thought about that until I got older. Even watching that can be traumatic for somebody that wasn't even in it, you know?
Well, in Miami, we had, before the Rodney King incident, we had our own situation like that, where actually two of them. This was way before this is right before the Rodney King situation. And I remember we had a situation here in North Miami where a police officer, off-duty police officer, shot a motorcyclist in the head and close to 95. And the cop said that the guy was trying to run him over, and there was witnesses there, and they're like, he was just riding his bike, like trying to like get through the scene. And we had riots here. We had major riots here. Yeah. That the riots blocked 95, and people were throwing stuff into 95.
Is 95 a freeway?
Yeah, I-95, the one that goes all the way to New York City.
Right.
Yeah, it's a major freeway in the East Coast. And there was a huge riot here. And it was, they were showing footage of people rioting in Northwest and North Miami on 95. They were taking to 95, like literally getting through the fence and going into 95. It was crazy. And the police officer was this, Cuban police officer, and he got off.
Oh, wow.
He got off. Yeah, he said he was self-defense. And then there was another Spanish guy that was also shot up in his home in front of his house. I think 30, 40 bullets. And he was yeah. So, and I remember in school, they were telling us, well, the cop was in the right, because he was the motorcyclist was trying to run him over, and they were always giving an excuse. But then I saw the Rodney King thing, and I'm like, damn, that's when, like, it was just like the world is not right.
And to this day, I've gotten some subscribers, or if I've talked about it, it's come up, they'll get livid and they'll just be like, he deserved it, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, you know what? He was handcuffed.
Who deserved?
On the floor. Rodney King. They'll get mad. I'm just like, he was handcuffed. He was on the floor. Like what? Like they all jumped in, and it was caught on video. Even if he cursed them out, even if he
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It was him. It was 10 cops against 1, and he was already handcuffed. Yeah, it doesn't matter if a criminal is. This is why we're America. If we were in another country, and that's the acceptable thing to do every day. That's whatever other country that is. But here is like, once you subdue the person, there's no need to go that extra mile and beat the person to a pulp.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no need for that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And, unlike, they're good police officers, of course, but, they're just people in a position of power. They use that power in negative ways. And, we really have to get out of this mentality that certain people in certain careers are benevolent just because they have this career, whether it's a teacher, a doctor, lots of teachers are child molesters because they're around children. That's where the child molesters go, right? They're working at Disneyland, they're around teachers, but you trust, they're in churches, you trust your children around these people. And
they're in churches, they're in the judicial system, they're in law enforcement.
Yeah.
The thing is again, people have this thing, and we've been trained to see people behind their title. And that's the problem with the public. They forget that those people are people, exactly, just like anybody else. And just because they have a title, just because they're politicians, just because they're, senators, representatives, your city officials, your cops, exec celebs, doctors, scientists, there are evil people everywhere, exactly, that do evil things. This is the way of the world. A human is a human, no matter how they're dressed, no matter, if they have, money, don't have money, it doesn't matter. They're capable of doing the same things. Okay. It's very simple.
Yeah.
You can be educated or not educated. You can still rape a kid. You can still rape a woman. You can still kill someone. You can still stab someone. It doesn't matter who you think you are. You're still capable of those things.
There was what's his name? The son of Sam murderer was interviewed years ago, and I don't think it was just him. Of course, he's saying that he was part of like a satanic cult, and one of the quotes he gave on the interview was, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but he was just like, people think that these Satanists are the dregs of human society, but they're actually not. It's the teachers, it's the doctors, it's the lawyers, it's the upper people in the upper echelons that are actually engaging in this stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I've heard you talk about in your videos a little bit about Satanism. Would you mind, if you don't want to talk about it, it's cool, I can edit that part out, but I'm just curious, would you mind talking about, do you want to?
I mean, what exactly do you want to talk about it?
You said that it. Were you involved or something? Or you knew?
Witchcraft, brujeria.
Brujeria. Do you want to talk about it?
I mean, I could talk about it. It's African religion, what you guys call voodoo or Santeria or Ifa, or, you can say it's a pagan religions. So go ahead.
I was gonna ask, is there a good side to it? Is it all bad? Is it like what is your interpretation of it then?
We shouldn't be okay. So these type of things have an initiation process.
Yeah.
So the reason I don't want to talk about this, because then I go into all religions and people get upset when I start talking about all religions, because all the religions, because it's considered a religion, they have an initiation process. Catholicism has an initiation process. Brujeria, Santeria, Ifa, Voodoo has an initiation process. And even the secret societies are a religion. They have an initiation process. So the thing about these religions, ancient and modernized versions, is that they know secrets that the masses do not know. And those secrets are based on manifesting things.
I don't give a shit. Like if people get offended, they can subscribe. They know. I'm not.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. You can do whatever. I just want to make sure if you're comfortable, that's fine. But people
I mean, I stopped talking about it because then I have to, because a lot of people, when you start talking about these things and you go back to history and you go back to other things that connects to their religion, it upsets them.
Well, they'll have to get over it.
You know, just
I mean, it's true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's true, then, you know, this is truth or talk, not beat around the bush talk.
right. So there are people that believe that practice paganism, or what you call, some people will call, well, it's not the same thing. Okay, there's the pagans and then there's the Satanists. Okay, there's the right-hand path and the left-hand path, right? So some people believe themselves to be the light of paganism, you know, or the good side, and then some people are the dark side.
Is it like the yin and yang?
No, but yes.
Okay.
The yin and yang is based on that everything has a light and a dark side.
Mm-hmm.
The duality. Mm-hmm. That's what it's based on. Everything has a light and a dark. So it's not really the yin and yang, but you can see it that way based on the picture of the symbol. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. But you have people that practice paganism that don't believe they're practicing Satanism because they don't call dark entities or demons or all these things. They deal with their ancestors. They deal with, you know, like African religions deal with their ancestors, their tribal stuff. So they don't see that as bad.
Yeah.
Then you have the Satanists that call specific entities up, that call specific things up to do their bidding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we start getting into these type of things, you have to remember the three major religions right now. Well, one of the major religions right now, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, go back to the worship of Saturn. So you tell people that and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you have to research it. All these major religions go back to the worship of Saturn. Okay. And they have more than one deity. Not saying that Christ did not, you know, not saying Christ doesn't exist, because Christ did exist. There's proof that Christ existed, but the worshiping of the stars goes back to earlier religions. You know what I mean? It's a nature thing. And a lot of people think that everything that has to do with nature is Satanism, and it's not.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Because back in the day when, you know, everybody has their rituals, even Judaism had its ritual, even early Christians had their ritual, this, you know, the solstice and the seasons, that is nature. So they did appreciate nature. They did, you know, do their rituals based on the crops and all this stuff. Where it turns into darkness is when you start calling up entities to do your bidding.
So entities, is there such thing as summoning a good entity, or they're all bad?
If you're conjuring, you're conjuring darkness.
So you don't conjure good. I'm just curious. I'm generally curious.
No, your ancestors are there. They're not. You don't have to conjure them up. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're with you. You know, they come and go as they please.
So usually if you conjure somebody, you have to offer them a sacrifice, and that's kind of the darkness. Is that the thing? Okay. Or your ancestors like, hey, what's up? I'm here if you need me. But then, like, if you're conjuring dark, they're like, all right, kill something for me. I'll do it. I'll do it for a dead baby and some dead rabbits or something like that.
All right.
Okay. I try and simplify stuff for people, make it a little humorous to take the edge off. But yeah.
I mean, it's more complicated than that, but yeah, you can see.
I'm just trying to simplify. Yeah. Okay. I get it.
Yeah. But so, and then, like I said, when I talk about this is like, how am I going to talk about it where people don't? It's just
people, like, you can't please everybody. I'm over it. So, well, I mean, you know about this stuff. I know a little bit about it. My great grandfather's Haitian.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that they practice Vidong and stuff, and I have, you know, but I've never really gone that deep into it. So I'm curious about stuff like that. And I know people that have done paganist stuff and they worship some nature. I know they're good people. I know they're not like sacrificing people. And I know that there's
Exactly.
I know that people don't make that distinction between
Right.
the two. They just kind of all lump them in. And I think that that has to be made for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know people that are very, very Christian because they were in cults like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they don't want to even have anything that doesn't have to do with Christianity, because it's like kind of like they go from one extreme to another, like kind of like a lot of people that are hard drug addicts, and then they go and they find Jesus, and then they're like all, you know, kind of like they go from one extreme to the other, but then they're so preachy about, you know.
But that's, as long, you know what, that's fine, because they had their experiences, and their experiences were whatever it is that it was. And then they went to the, you know, they went to, I guess many will tell you that they got saved,
Mm-hmm.
because that's fine. But my thing is, a lot of people that practice Christianity
Mm-hmm.
or Judaism or anything else, they don't really believe it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, I mean,
they don't practice what they preach.
Not at all.
And you know, it turns a lot of people onto Satanism, because you know they see a lot of hypocritical religious people, and they're like, well, I mean, you're a molester, or you're doing this or whatever, and but you thump the Bible all day long, or you're doing just stuff in the dark. Why, you know, what's the difference? You know,
I've had conversations where people say, and I mean, not even back and forth, where people say things like, do you believe? And I'm like, why do you worry about if I believe something?
Mm-hmm.
What is your concern with what I believe? Make sure you really believe what you're saying. You know, pretty much that's, because I see that all the time. You know, people are talking all the time, saying all these things, claiming all these things, screaming it from the top of their lungs. And it's just like, you need to worry about you.
Yeah.
And what you're saying.
For
Because sometimes you'll see, even in messages, or even people talking, even people preaching, there's so much hatred coming out of their mouth. So much of it. It's just like, I'm sorry, you said you were what? A follower of who? And it's just like they're spewing hate. And I'm like, there's no possible way that you speaking about others in that way, that you're a believer of anything that you say you're a believer of. Mm. There's no way. And I always bring up Christ and the New Testament. A lot of Christians will tell me, oh, well, the Bible says this, the Bible says that. And I'll say, okay, what does Christ say? And they get stumped. Oh, well, it says in Genesis this or this and that. It says this and this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, what does Matthew say? What does Christ say in the New Testament? And then they're like, well, that's, you know, and they always try to counter what I'm telling them. And I'm like, every word that comes out of your mouth is not what Christ said.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
If I tell you turn the other cheek, if Christ is telling you turn the other cheek, and you're telling me, oh, that's cafeteria Christians, and I'm going to tell you there's something wrong with you, because that's what Christ said.
I'm going to use that, cafeteria Christians. Yeah.
That's a cafeteria Christian. I'm like, that's who Christ was. So I have people always constantly telling me, oh, you're not this, you're not that, you're a witch, you're this, you're that. I'm like, listen, if you really knew your religion, you would not say any of the things that you're telling me.
Mm.
If you really knew about Judaism and what Judaism was about, and where the religion came from, you would not be telling me any of the stuff that you're telling me.
They trying to out-Christian you.
No, it's not even about that, because I say, you know, if you look at my videos, I tell you a bunch of stuff. I tell you I'm not a saint. I'm sometimes a demon. I tell you the whole nine. I don't even sugarcoat anything. And I tell you that I have to work on myself. But if you go back to how Christ lived, what Christ said, what he told his people. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Damn. Sorry, hold on.
It's okay. Seaweed. Iodine is good for you.
Yeah.
I think I can edit this out.
No problem. Okay. No, because it was just a bunch of stuff started flying away.
Like insects?
No, like bags that was left there and people didn't secure them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like people, I'll say, what did Christ do? What did Christ say? How did Christ live his life? And every time I say these things, some people, it registers, some people register. And some people just hate the fact that you point out the truth. If you're a believer of Christ, then you will follow the path of Christ, period.
Yeah.
Okay, Christ did not tell you go beat up somebody down the street because they're not like you. Go shoot somebody down. None of those things came out of Christ's mouth.
Yeah, he wasn't
at any time
killing my name because people,
none of that.
Yeah.
None of that. And people will say, "Oh, well, that's just you're trying to pervert the words." I'm like, pervert what words? Those are the words that are written in the Bible. That's the good book. And I'm talking, and then people say, well, the Old Testament says, and I'm like, the Old Testament is old for a reason.
Yeah.
The Old Testament is the Torah. Christ came and said, you MFers are doing this shit wrong. This is how you got to live your life. What did he do? He got pissed off at the Pharisees and told them, you all are a bunch of devils, basically, because you're expecting the people to live a way that you don't even live. He told them what was up.
Yeah.
You're wanting the people to practice and suffer in their practice when you're not even doing that. When you're sitting in the temples and eating the bread when you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so like when you do as I say, right? Not as I do.
Yeah.
So when you bring this up to people that are supposedly super religious, they get upset. Well,
they use their religion to hide behind their hypocrisy.
Well, I don't know. I just honestly think that they think that they're good. That they honestly think that because they read the words in a book and that because they supposedly say that they believe that they're actually good. But if they have hatred in their heart and they're constantly practicing the opposite of what Christ did, then you're not a believer and you're not a real follower because you're not following.
Yeah.
And I always get people that will quote me day and night. Oh my God, I get so tired of it. They will quote me day and night, the Old Testament. And I'm like, but why don't you quote me Christ's words? Like they'll quote me the Old Testament up and down. They'll quote me Revelations. They'll quote me all the bad stuff. They will never quote me the shit that Christ said. And I'm like, that's where the problem is.
You don't think,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just saying, but you don't think, just in my experience, I notice a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people that are like that, the psychology behind that is the fact that they are trying to cover up for some stuff that they're not complete with, or they're not, so they know that maybe they're doing stuff that's wrong and they think that, okay, well, I can do this wrong stuff on the side, but then I can go and read these words from the Bible and that's going to save me.
There might be some people that do that, but the majority, I think, honestly don't think that they're doing wrong. Like psychologically, they think that they're not doing wrong, that they're in the right because they supposedly believe that they're believers. It's just like Islam. The most of the Muslims believe that they're doing the right thing. Even with all the horrible things that they're doing towards women and the oppression, they think that that's in the right because that's what the book says. So if you believe that you're doing right, if you believe in your mind that your actions are in line with whatever God you may believe in, you can't change that if that's what they believe, if that's what they honestly think of themselves. You can't change that.
You have to have some kind of a transformation, some paradigm shift or some event, like to make them, like to really snap them out of it.
Yeah. You know, and some people I've spoken to, like, I'd be like, does this make sense to you? You're sitting here and you're condemning and judging everyone, yet you say you're a follower of Christ. I go, point to me anywhere in the New Testament where Christ condemned anyone. They can't.
Do they usually go silent, or they just get even more angry?
They just all of a sudden, like, there's no real conversation, no debate. Or they're just, you know, they'll quote me some other stuff, and I'm like, no, you're avoiding what I'm talking about. If it came down to it, would you turn the other cheek? If it came down to it, would you turn the other cheek? Myself, I can't turn the other cheek.
Yeah,
I'm not. I'm like, I'm not there. I'm
an Aries. I don't do that shit.
but what I'm saying, I could be honest and say, I'm not there, man.
Yeah, totally. I just have to be like, somebody. I got invited.
I'm far.
You said you're far what?
No, the more I look at that and I read that, is the further I am of it.
Oh,
I realize I am anywhere in that ballpark. I'm in trouble.
I got invited to this V for vaccine. I'm like really into health freedom and stuff. That's kind of like one of the reasons I started this channel. Before you know, I started talking about politics and stuff, like around 2011. That was kind of like my main focus. And you know, once you start kind of researching like the CDC and all these other, the WHO and stuff, then that's when it gets into the Satanism. You know, the deeper down the rabbit hole you go, you see how this is all connected. But I was invited to protest, and I was like, you don't want me there. Because I see how they, you know, it was like for vaccine, to talk about the dangers of vaccines. And one protest, my friend recorded, and these people were like being beat. They were taking their signs. I was just like, you don't want me there. I was like, somebody put their hands on me, it's a wrap. Like, I'm going to have to hit them back.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not going to let somebody just put their hands on me and be like, oh, well, you're exposing yourself. Hell no, they're about to get their balls crushed. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'll help from the sides. I'll do online work. I'll do educational stuff.
Yeah.
But if I have to be put in a situation where I'm not scared to go protest, but I'm not going to let people beat me. Like, I wouldn't have been good in the civil rights movement. Right. Yeah, and a lot of those people are crippled for life. And all they have is their story about, you know, how they were abused to kind of keep them alive. But I'm just like, but you're brain damaged. You know, your arm is broken in 5 places. You can't do stuff. You can't play guitar. Like, it's not worth it to me, you know? And some people, I just don't believe, you know, really learn that way. Some people need their ass kicked to really get it through their head, I think, you know? Like all these Antifa kids, you know, if they had consequences to going out there and bullying people, they wouldn't be doing that. You know? Right. Well, they were protected, but if they weren't protected and they went out there with just one time and some patriots kicked their ass, they wouldn't be back there again. Well, they did. That did happen. That was the case the last few times that went down in California. They did get their ass whooped. And then they realized that they can't go out there and they're not going to be protected anymore. Yeah, exactly. Because people started fighting back. But you know, I think what's wrong with us, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, is that everyone thinks that they're right. Of course. From whatever moral standpoint, whatever, you know, from whatever belief system they're at, they think that they're right in what they're doing. And what we don't understand is that those of us that think that we're right, and I include myself in it, because sometimes I'm like, I know that I'm wrong in certain things, you know? We fed these monsters. These ruling parties that have us tricked, we fed them. We've given them our power. Mm-hmm. Without our, I'll say, agreement to them ruling us, they wouldn't be in the positions that they're in. Because they need us. Manipulative, but it's like, like they need our consent. Yes. They had to manipulate our consent from us, but they still wouldn't have it unless we gave it to them.
Exactly.
They need us. We're feeding them. They're feeding off of us. But we don't you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Without that, they wouldn't be in the positions that they're in. And they've perfected the way they control us psychologically. They've spent trillions and trillions of dollars. I mean, over the last 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years, they've perfected how to keep us in check and how to keep us from going after them. But if you notice, right now, shit is blowing up. Like everybody's starting to see the reality of everything.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's scary and it's great. But it's scary and it's great.
Well, I want to ask you, how did you, were you always into politics? Did you start, because I think when I came across your videos, you were talking about like a lot of the, you were talking about political stuff, but then like I said, I liked you and I subscribed to you because I saw that you were talking about other like deeper stuff too, because you realize the bigger picture. And it's frustrating because, you know, I'll get people and I'll make a snarky video and then they'll subscribe and then and then they'll be like, oh, and then I'll start talking about chemtrails and shit. And they'll be like, oh, you need to stop with our conspiracy theories. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Subscribe. I'm going to talk about this shit. I'm like, it gets worse from here. So you better leave. You better jump ship right like today, you know?
Yeah, they'll subscribe to you when you're talking about the stuff that they like. And then anything that they don't like or they don't agree with, they'll unsubscribe. Yeah, so it is.
But I'm like, we're going down the rabbit hole, so you better hang on. I'm not just going to talk about politics, but I was just curious about you, because you talk about the bigger picture. What got you kind of start talking about the political situation? What was your trigger?
Well, I mean, at the beginning, when I first started doing these videos, I wasn't going to do these videos. I'm not the type of person to put my face on anything. And I'm like, doing videos. I'm like, hell no, but something told me you have to start doing videos. It started spiritually mixed with the politics. I got involved because I saw Trump was, you know, going for the presidency. And to me, when I saw the primaries, I was like, uh-oh, this is going to get interesting because I had given up on politics. I had given up on, you know, voting because of the whole, I used to be an activist in the 2000s. When Bush was in power, and I saw a lot of things that were going on and the corruption, and I'm like, you know what? Politics is BS.
Yeah,
it's a game. It's a game to keep us entertained. And then Obama came into play, and I was like, you know, I had hope that what I was thinking, what I was believing was not. Yeah.
You had hope. Is it because he said had to have hope? Probably,
no, because it was, you know, because this guy came out of nowhere, which I should have known better.
Yeah.
But you know, there's that part in you that you want to believe in things.
Yeah.
You want to believe in good.
Yeah.
Even though I believed that nothing was ever good before that, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm always negative. I'm always seeing things in a particular way. You know, maybe I should have some hope. And I'm like, this is something different. This is something new. So then, you know, I volunteered at the precincts. I voted for him. 3 months into his presidential, you know, into his administration, he lied about everything. And then I'm like, fuck politics, fuck politicians. Forget about all this shit. It's all a fucking lie.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm not dealing with this thing anymore. I started looking at C-SPAN in high school. I used to watch the debates. That's how I got involved in politics.
Oh, wow.
I used to I wanted to learn how the government worked. And it's not because of school. It was because I found it interesting how, you know, there's people that gather in this place called the Senate or the House, and they debate on what they're going to do for the country or for the people. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting. That's how I got involved. But when Trump came in and I started hearing the rumblings and I started hearing the stuff that he was saying, I was like, oh, this is going to get good. This is going to get good. This person is a reality show guy. He's a real estate guy. Mm-hmm. He's saying stuff that no one would say because it would be, I'm like, okay. I started paying attention.
I didn't watch anything until after he won. And then I went back and I watched it. I just knew that Hillary was bad and I didn't want her to win. But I was like, dang, I missed all this. He was just going off on people. And
Yeah.
like, what? Look, and I would hear my friends talk about, I was like, oh, he's a racist. But I didn't believe that shit. I was like, how is he a racist when like he's chilling with he's the only billionaire I know that parties with the black rappers. They're just figuring this shit out now. So I didn't buy into that, but I just was just totally closed. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't vote after the whole Obama thing too. I was just like, fuck Obama, fuck politics. I'm done.
Yeah.
And but yeah, sorry, I cut you off. You were saying you saw.
No, I saw what he was saying. I saw him, when he was campaigning, and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's gonna cause. He is gonna. I just saw the future. I'm like, this guy's gonna erupt this place. And then I started, I got excited because I'm like, the country's going to be shaken up with this guy. And sure enough, I saw how the media was going after him. I saw how the whole nine, how they were saying he was going to lose, he was going to lose, he was going to lose. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, these people have no clue what's going to go down. And then, we saw what we saw. And I was just like, okay, now I'm getting back into politics because this is going to blow up our whole system. I don't know why I thought this, but I knew that because he was running, that a lot of things were going to be exposed. And sure enough, he exposed a whole gang of things.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for. Somebody to come in and just blow this whole, how everything works wide open.
So why do you think it's different? Because I know you know about the left-right paradigm. Why do you think that his presidency is different from, like, because, I'm sure you get people too. I get people that say, oh, I just got a comment the other day saying, if you're a real truther, if you're a real truth seeker, you wouldn't support Trump. You would know about the left-right paradigm. And I think it's different this time. Why do you think it's different?
I understand the left-right paradigm. I understand that both wings are part of the same bird.
Yeah.
I get it. But Trump is not here to save anyone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I've always said this. I said this from the beginning, even before he became president. And even right after he became president. I said, he's a Luciferian. He's not here to save anyone. Okay? He's here to expose everything. That is his purpose. That's always been his purpose. And that's what he's done. And this is something that I've known for the last few years. And people don't want to hear that, or just they choose to tune that out. But he's not a savior. He's here to show you what the system is about. And he has. He's shown us clearly what the system is about. He's made it clear that the media has been a lie, what the media's purpose is. He's made it clear how corrupt the politicians are. He's shown you how corrupt the banks are, how corrupt your states are. Mm-hmm. How he showed you or brought attention to, because of his personality, because of his cult of personality, to say, he brought attention to the global order. Mm-hmm. A lot of people knew about the global order before. I knew about the New World Order, the international order before, but there was only a few of us, let's just say, compared to now that there's billions of people that understand what the global order is. Yeah. If it wasn't for him, we would still be asleep. Like the majority of people would not be paying attention. So
and now it's called the deep state now.
It's always been the shadow government.
It's always shadow government or the New World Order. Like back in my day, we used to call it the new now, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's interesting because I would say that I've been kind of on this work for like 10 years, and I've made a lot of friends. Sorry, my eyes are itching. I made a lot of friends around the world just being an activist online and having my podcasts and stuff. And some I've actually met physically, and we're like full-on friends, and we hang out. And some I still correspond with, but I haven't met. But we're all just kind of talking about like what's going on today, and we're just like, God, like, especially with the whole thing and the chipping. Now Bill Gates is saying, oh, they want to chip us and stuff. And I remember that Aaron Russo interview. Did you ever see that? Alex Jones, when he interviewed Aaron Russo. So let me just tell the people that are watching. Maybe I can find it and put it in the links. But Aaron Russo was this Hollywood producer, and he was very successful. And he was talking. Alex Jones interviewed him when he did good interviews, like long form interviews and stuff. And this guy's talking about like how he was hanging out with one of the Rockefellers, and the Rockefellers was talking about chipping people before chips were even in like even thought to even be possible. Like he was talking about that they want to chip people, inject them with this chip, and get them to buy stuff with it, and they won't like, they won't have any money or cash or anything. And if somebody was defiant, they'll just turn their chip off. And now this day's here. It's crazy. And a lot of the sports vaccination, like I've been online active, knowing that this day was come because I knew that they want to have all adults vaccinated. They were going to like start with the kids, and now it's here,
Well, yeah, well, they've been chipping people now for several years, since 2004. It started, since 2004. It started with the government officials and contractors. If you look up, I've been posting about this for 4 years now, and even I was posting about this even before I had a YouTube channel on my Facebook over 10 years ago. So there's volunteers that have been taking the chip or a version of a chip since 2004. The first ones to take it was Mexican politicians and other politicians around the world because of the cartels. They gave the excuse that they needed to be chipped because of the cartels and the kidnappings and all that. You can find articles on that online still. Then it was contractors, military contractors. Then you had the public volunteering themselves to get chipped within the last 6 years for easy access to their smart technology. Australia, and so you have few million people around the world that are already chipped.
And you also have people in clubs. I know certain countries, they were like, oh, if you get chips, you get free drinks if you go into a club. They was even
right.
Level.
You have Sweden that was promoting their tram. If you get chipped, you don't have to show ID or anything to get on the tram. And that was 2 years ago. They were promoting this, on a massive level. Then you have most, I think, international bankers, like top people are chipped. What else? And then you have the medical industry, which have been putting in chips for like neurological problems and other types of problems to help people, which is another version of, some type of smart chip that goes in the body. Mm-hmm. So, but the one that everybody is, the easy access one is the one that everybody's going to start using, which is the main one that opens your car, opens your home, has all your financials on there. And that already started.
Fuck that.
That's already started.
You're not taking the chip? I'm just kidding. Fuck that.
No.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to it's about time for me to move off the grid. That's my limit. I mean, I know we already have phones and computers and all that stuff, but I guess what I was saying is the fact that, they're talking about everybody has to have one to go back to work for the medical ID. It's all coming out like the bigger plan is being like brought to
right.
life.
You're talking about the ID 2020.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, that's a tracking vaccination. So I don't know if there's different versions of stuff that has to deal with ID 2020. Something is like a sticker or like a tattoo. You have Google that was coming up with a tattoo a few years ago. The ID 2020, I believe, is something that it's injected in you, but it's some type of like nanotechnology type deal. There's different versions. You have Google's coming out with a biometric debit card, smart debit card, where it's your fingerprint that that you put on your card and then you can use it.
Yeah, fuck all that.
Oh,
the fingerprint, the chip, the tattoo, they can all suck it. Like,
like the China model. I've been talking about the China model for over 2 years. That's what's coming, where you use your facial recognition as your ID and your payment. That's the one. That's the one. So if people are not going to get chipped, there's going to be the biometrics facial recognition situation. Because in China and in parts of Asia, in order for you to go into one of their like small markets, because they're setting these up, especially in China, in order for you to go into the store, you have to put your face, they have to do a biometrics facial recognition on you. It gives all your information, who you are, everything. And then you can go into the store, get your item, and then your facial recognition pays for the item.
Fuck that too. Oh my God. This is crazy.
That's already in China. That's already in most parts of Asia.
That's one of the reasons too, when I go to like, because I'm trying to figure out like, how do I like surpass it? I even opt out. I've never been in one of the airport machines. I don't do that shit because I know they'll get my biometrics. I'm like, fill me down. Like, I'm like trying to like, I don't know if there's any other way they could have got it or what. I don't know. I'm kind of paranoid about that shit. I mean, I also don't want to be blasted with radiation, but that's another way they can take your biometrics and get that in a system is if when you go through the.
Those machines are killing a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're going to travel, your facial recognition is going to be used, your biometric is going to be used. You're not going to have a choice. Europe started this in the 2000s. When I traveled overseas, they already had facial recognition and biometrics. So, and TSA has it here for the last 10 years on international, when you go internationally. Certain airports had it. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, biometrics and facial recognition now. I'm like, that shit has been around for a decade. If you haven't traveled, then you're, it's going to be a surprise to you, but it's already been. Like I get stopped every time I leave the country and come back in. Every time I do my facial recognition, biometrics, because if not, they always put me in that line. And then they tell me I have to wait and have to see customs every time. And that's because I'm on a list, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is the future. This is what I've been talking about. And a lot of people have been talking about this, AI, artificial intelligence, biometrics, facial recognition. Now the ID 2020, you have your phones, your laptops are going to require your facial recognition for you to open, and your biometrics. That's next. The next phones that come in, it's going to require your fingerprints and your facial recognition to turn the phone on.
I hate these people.
I mean, it is what it is.
So
then
go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm always cutting people off and trying to get better with not doing that. But so you think more people are waking up than what? Because I like to talk to people that have kind of been on this tip for at least a decade or more, because you can definitely see the progression from then to now. So you would, or I shouldn't put words in your mouth. Would you say that there are more people that are woke now?
Oh yeah, the whole world.
So are you hopeful?
Hopeful as in like what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
From the wokeness, I see a lot of scenarios that are negative, and then I see some that could be positive. It depends on what the ruling class do now that people are woken up, and what the rest of the world does to what the counter is going to be.
Yeah.
That's going to be the problem. I don't know if you've seen Bill Ryan's interview from 9 years ago from Project Avalon.
Oh, I used to watch Project Avalon. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Well,
he back and refresh. Yes, I used to watch that all the time with Carrie, and yeah.
He did a video, Bill Ryan, when he left Project Camelot. He did a video, an interview, where he talked about the coming events. This was in 2010. He talked about China catching a cold. He talked about an insider that was in the international banking that sat in a meeting where they were planning out the events that we're seeing today in 2000s. They said that the sequence of events were going to be, you know, China catching a cold, then would be an attack on Iran, or, you know, in this way. There would be an attack on Iran and then retaliation, and then there would be on World War nuclear exchange. I think that because the people are waking up and by millions each week, they're gonna lead us into World War III. This is their end game, World War III, and I think that's gonna be because everybody's waking up, and they're not gonna be able to control the population. I mean, if you look at what's happening in Belgium. Look, hold on one second. Sorry. Look at what's happening in Belgium. Look at what's happening in Berlin yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Look at what's happening in Italy, in Asia, parts of Asia. People are protesting. And they know exactly what is going on. They realize now that this woo-woo was a cover for something else, which is what I've been saying. It's a cover for the new system coming in. And the new system coming in is going to be a digital system. The Democrats tried to pass last month digital currency in the stimulus package bill. And that bill that they tried to pass, it got shot down. So we're going into a new system, and the new system is going to be the China model. And everybody needs to prepare for that.
So do you think that, like, because you're saying it with such certainty that that's going to happen. So is that in what you think the scenarios are, that it's going to happen no matter what? Or we have this is an opportunity to really shake things up and turn things around so it doesn't happen? Because I've been thinking about this, and I think that, you know, they're the lead, or like one, or, you know, the New World people, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they're really like 1% of the population, and they have a lot of power and they have a lot of money, but they really need us to turn against each other, to fight us in order to get their plan. So if we don't do that, then they're fucked, you know?
Not exactly, because what they can do is since the majority in the West, the majority of people in the West, we don't grow our own food anymore.
Yeah.
All they have to do is starve us out. And you'll see how quickly the majority of people will go ahead and go into the new system. And it's happening already. There's riots in Africa. There was riots in India. Riots right now in Venezuela yesterday, the day before yesterday. Food riots. They're starving the people out. In the third world right now, they're starving the people out. Our supply chains are being cut off because of the shutdown. You have eggs, you have milk being reported, being dumped by the tons.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
You have farmers being told, being told to sell their livestock. They're moving on the public. And the public, this is what I've been telling people. I don't know if you've seen my videos in the last, 2 months, 3 months, actually since last year, I've been telling people to prepare for something big. And that they should buy food, they should buy water, seeds, because we're gonna have to do that in order for us not to be dependent on your government, which is FEMA.
I got all that. I got all that, but yeah,
because,
I know.
And this is why I'm telling people, you need to start creating community in your area, because you're gonna need each other, because you don't want your neighbors to be coming after you.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what happened in Italy last month. People were rushing the stores, the food stores, that the police had to protect the supermarkets in Italy. So you have that stuff going on in Italy. You have that stuff going on in places in Europe, which is the West. And you already seen the riots in Africa and in Asia. What do you think is going to happen here? where people have
already
weapons.
writing over toilet paper. So what happens when when food goes out? You know, it's gonna be insane. But
It's going to be a bad situation.
But anyway, is there anything else you want to say? I guess we should start wrapping it up. It's been about an hour. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Well, I mean, what I'm going to tell people is that you need to understand we're going into the new system. And it's going to be sooner than later. If you want to counter the new system, that means you have to create your own community, your own economic system, and start creating something separate from the main system that we're dealing with. It's the only way you're going to counter this. The only way.
Yeah.
Because these people are not going to give up on their one world system. Okay. The central banks right now, worldwide, you can look at the articles, I've been posting them online for a few months, have been talking about, and I even posted this a few years ago, have been talking about digital currency and digitizing the dollar and the fiat money since 2015. And now they're coming up with something called stable coins, which is kind of like cryptocurrency, but centralized. So these things are happening. What's happening right now with the economy is a cover. The COVID is a cover for the wealth transfer. Okay, so the banks, the corporations, everybody's being bailed out because they're transferring the wealth from the people to the ruling class. Yeah. Okay, and we were already in trouble before the corona. We had problems in the repo markets in 2019. This was in September. This was all last year. We were having economic problems, and the Federal Reserve was doing all those crazy quantitative easing stuff for a reason. The economy was going to collapse, and this release, and I will say release, of the woo-woo was intentional. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, I'll go ahead and send you the links for the Bill Ryan video.
Yeah, you send them to me and I'll put them in the description for sure.
Right. Look at these links. These are people that were talking about what was going to come a decade ago, years ago. And they were telling you.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
No.
I want to ask, was it because they're also talking about like Project Looking Glass, right? Is it because they knew this through that, or they just had info? Because I saw this 10 years ago. I don't remember. You know, I'll just send me links and I'll watch it again.
Yeah, I'll send you all the links. I mean, and you have the simulation event tool 1, which was the Gates Foundation with a job. I mean, they already knew it was about Corona. It was a simulation on Corona. You had a WHO that had a COVID-19 training exercise simulation. This was in 2019, before the Corona hit, or the woo-woo hit. You had the World Economic Forum that had its own action plan for COVID in 2019. And supposedly we just found out in November. Yet these people already had this pandemic exercise simulation beforehand. So, and this was leading us to the ID 2020, where everything is connected to this vaccination. And it's just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and send you some links so your followers can watch. Yeah. But we have to understand that artificial intelligence is going to be the system that we're going into. Automation is the system that we're going into. And the only way to counter this is to create your own society.
Yeah, got you.
If there is an opt-out option, you have to opt out yourself and create it.
Yeah. I knew because not be so dependent on somebody to save us or somebody to come in or
Right, and you got to understand that most of the small businesses are going to go out of business by the time we reopen.
Yeah.
And the only thing, and it's, you know, basically all the businesses are going to be consolidated by the major ones. And I mean, it's just the fact. You can see it clearly.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll go ahead and send you those links. And then hopefully, I mean, I have a bunch of stuff that I could have talked about, but we're going on a different direction.
Well, I can have you back on again in the future. I've been wanting to chat with you for a while, so let me get caught up with a bunch of stuff. I can definitely have you back. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and your people should check out the protest in Israel, the protest in Brazil against the lockdowns, the protest in obviously here in the U.S. So everybody is starting to understand what's going on. They understand that this is looks something like World War II.
Yeah, yeah.
So
no, it's cool. Thank you so much, PA.
Oh well, thank you for having me.
Huh?
I know. I said thank you for having me.
Yeah, girl. I'm so glad we got to connect. And send me the stuff. I'll put it in the description. All right, guys. I will talk to you later. Don't hang up. I'm just sign off and then. All right.
Okay, no problem.
Peace, peace, love, guys. Bye. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye. Hold on a second. Let me.